Welcome back to Soulful Prosperity. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to lead with purpose, impact, and faith. Dan Bowling is the CEO of Toyin' Around, a Genesis company and a serial entrepreneur who has helped launch and manage over 300 brands, collectively generating more than $3 billion in sales. But what truly sets Dan apart isn't just his business acumen, it's his unwavering commitment to using success as a vehicle for service. Under his leadership, Dan's companies have helped feed over 1 million children, rescue more than 200 girls from human trafficking, and raise over $1 million for local nonprofits. He's a 3-time Inc. magazine Best Company winner, a member of the Fast Company Executive Board, and a coach and builder at heart. He's also a proud husband, father, believer, and cheerful giver, someone who shows up every day to create a better story for his team, customers, community, and the world. So in this episode, we're going to dive into what it truly means to build a business that changes lives. Help me welcome Dan Bowling. Hi, Dan.
Whoa.
How'd I do?
I'm great. That was awesome. Yeah. Wow. There's some things about me I didn't know. So that was really good. And I love your hat. So good.
We need reminders,
Totally. Well, it's all about the vibe you're putting out. So that's great.
It's all about the vibe we're putting out. So the show is Soulful Prosperity. I don't do a ton of prep on purpose because I really want people to come here and tell the story, whatever that story is that you want to tell, but the human side of the story, not just the success. And obviously that's going to be very, very easy for you. And you can start wherever you want and go wherever you want. I will probably interject sometimes. Let me just get my paper. I like to write notes as you're talking. With some thoughts or things that I resonate with or things that I just want some clarity around. So,
well, here we go.
Take it over.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, I'm very excited to be here because I don't think there's anything really, more important for like the long-term viability, and success of like a human than our mindset and what we believe and how we view the world. So it's such a fun topic. So I run the Genesis company. It owns a few different firms underneath of us, but at our soul, what we do is we scale consumer product brands. So we manage brands like direct to consumer, Amazon, or like a Target store. So that's what we do for a business. But what we really try to do is make sure that our business is affecting and positively serving as many humans as possible. So it's the whole thing of like, what do you do versus how you got there, which is obviously a long, story that's been unfolding for 42 years now. But we exist to create a better story, just who I am as a human, and then the business that I now get to run.
I love it. So how did you get there?
How did I get here? I think I think one thing that's really important for everybody to understand is that we've all gone through some tough things, right? There's nobody listening to this that hasn't struggled at some point. It's something that we all share as humans. And, as a kid, I had some tough things happen to me. I was paralyzed as a kid. I lost my father when I was 12. I was in the hospital like 22 times and no one could figure out what was wrong with me. And I think at a young age, I just made the decision, like, as much as I can affect it, when I get older, I want to be in control of what happens to me. And I smile every time I say it because I think control is a bit of an illusion. But I made a decision, I think, subconsciously, very young, of like, when I get old enough, I'm gonna own my own company and run my own company, because of some of the things that happened to me that when I was a kid and as I grew up. And I think that desire was then amplified. Coming out of college, I worked for a large company. I worked for the 3M company, and it was great. I loved my time there. And I think out of high school, out of college, like, go work for the biggest company you can if you want to get into business, just because you'll learn and networking. Yeah. But they moved so slow. And there was so many times I thought there was a great opportunity to really serve a customer in a new and exciting or innovative way. And it was like marketing wouldn't sign off on it or legal wouldn't sign off on it. And I'm like, you guys, the best thing to do is this for this client right here. So I think that those types of career experiences on top of my childhood, I was like, okay, I'm going to go run my own firm someday. So that's a little bit of the background of how I got here.
Fascinating. And so you launched your own company, very successful. Where did this need or this desire to feed all of these hungry children and people and getting into the human trafficking, like where did that stem from?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. I mean, once like one bullet point, and I think it's important to remember that like very few things in our life happen to us as a result of one big thing, right? Like somebody ends up either successful, however you define that, or homeless, right? And it's normally not just one thing. It's normally a series of things that happened over time. And I think for me to get here, it was a series of things. One, losing my father, like I really want to try to help as many kids as I can because I know what it feels like. And I know the statistics of what happens if, with the fatherless family. So I think that's kind of a bullet point in my life of like, how can I help when maybe there wasn't anybody there to help me? And then I also just believe like as a human being, like I believe that we were created to help and serve. Like I do. I believe we were created to help and serve. So that's just a belief that I have that I think we all have. And then the other part of this is I think, similarly that we were all created to be part of a larger story. So for me, when I got a hold of the company, it was, hey, how can I serve as many people as possible? And I think another bullet point in this story is just like a realization that business at its core exists to help people, right? The first businesses helped because somebody had to help their neighbor and they made a swap. And that's really all business is. It's like, how are you serving and solving the problems of people? So when you put that all together, to me, it's like, I don't know what else a business should do if it doesn't exist to help other people. We just take it, as far as we can possibly go. So when we talk about create a better story, it's like, well, first and foremost for our team members, like this is where they're spending majority of their adult lives. Like, how do we make this an exciting place, an engaging place, a fun place, as much as work can be fun? And then it reverberates out to our clients because they feel that same thing. And it's like this attitude from the top down of like, what are you struggling with? What's your biggest problem? We're going to help you solve it. And then it reverberates into our communities, right? So we've fed 1 million kids, saved 200 girls from human trafficking. We've used our profits to help fund domestic abuse therapy for over 100 kids, and a bunch of other fun things along the way. So for me, it's all about, if you're going to create a better story, it starts with your team, then your clients, and then your community. And we're on a quest here to redefine success. Like we've hit every metric you need to hit, to scale and to be a huge company and to win multiple awards. But what we're most proud of is the impact that we've made along the way. So I'm here to say that there's a different way of thinking what success is. And it's not just income statements and EBITDA, right? It's people that you helped along the way.
Oh my gosh, you're like the poster child for soulful prosperity. And it's so funny because the heart of my business coaching begins with understanding your greater good. What is the greater good that you serve? And then making sure that everybody in your company, on your team, your employees, whatever you refer to them as, that they not only understand the greater good of the company, but they understand that their part in it, how they're contributing to the greater good, and also how that greater good impacts them, impacts their family, and impacts their lives. And business is so beautiful when you can do that, when you begin there. And so sometimes people struggle with that. Well, I don't understand how, providing direct marketing serves a greater good. Well, sometimes when you can get curious about the clients that you're serving, or not when you can, you should, and really understand how does helping them with this direct marketing campaign, right? How does that impact their business when they have a successful campaign and they get a whole bunch of leads out of it and they convert those leads and it increases their business? Getting them to understand the emotional reasons behind why they want to succeed as well. So then your clients, number one, are more tied to the success of whatever they're doing with you in your business. But then you can truly see the greater good, right? Because sometimes we think, oh, well, no, I just picked this business because I liked it. Okay, so maybe that is the case, but you can still identify the greater good that you serve. And when you lead with that, that's where you start impacting the lives of your team, the lives of your clients, and all of a sudden everybody just feels good. And I think that, yeah, and that's love. That's the root of everything that you're talking about, is making sure that love exists in your business.
That's totally it. And I mean, I don't think anyone can argue with the fact that like being nice to somebody is a very good thing, right? And at the end of the day, whether it's like helping them with digital marketing or helping them like with their P&L or helping them with, you know, their scale, like strategy to scale, like what we're doing is trying to be nice, because there's nothing like nicer than like helping somebody or solve their problem, right? So that's all that we're trying to do. And quite frankly, like I'll listen to business leaders or podcasts, and it's like, I don't think there's a better way to run a business, because I think this is why business exists in the first place, right? Was to solve problems, to help people, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't care what you're doing or how you're doing it. It's the number one issue here is like, if your company is going to be viable, it's because you were solving problems, right? What's the number one pain point for your customer? Well, let's solve it, and then let's celebrate the fact that you helped them in such a way.
Yeah,
so, you completely nailed it.
I agree. The only thing is I like to also lead with what are their desires, right? Mm-hmm. Not just solving the pain, because I feel like we're so focused on pain right now, but I totally agree wholeheartedly. And, you know, living in that space, building a business that nourishes your soul, building a business that supports the life of your dreams, and spending the time to be able to identify what that really looks like. And then you really need to understand who you are, why you're here, what your purpose is. And in this space, business is easy.
Yeah.
It's so counterintuitive for so many people.
Well, I think a lot of people don't own their business. The business owns them, right?
Yes.
It's so
golden cage. I call it the golden cage.
Yeah. And part of that is down to employee engagement, and the numbers on there are awful, right? As far as like the high number of employees that are just disengaged every day. So for us, like having this type of culture where like when you come in, work on a Tuesday afternoon and you get that to-do list item checked that was kind of mundane and a little boring at some level. At our firm, it's not, because each box you check like directly correlates to helping a human, right? Improving their life. And we talk about that all the time. So that's back to like people here are part of a larger story. It's not just the KPIs. It's not just the growth numbers. It's not just revenue. It's all about helping humans thrive, right? And that's why, so we've been in business over 30 years. We haven't had anybody leave this company, I think since 2009 or 10. And after they left, they tried to come back. So we have like 100% employee retention rate since we went really all in, which is right around that time, into philanthropy, really as our root cause and how we exist to serve and help people be part of a larger story.
Incredible. And one thing that you talk about that's so important too is the clarity, right? And keeping that vision front and center. Because a lot of what happens is even so we create our vision, our values, and all of this, and then we just kind of assume everybody, because it's like maybe it's on the paper when we hired you, or maybe it's on the wall in the conference room. But when you're using that as your compass for whether or not, you know, we should bring on this project, hire this person, you know, do that when whatever decisions that you're making in the company, when you're using this vision of the greater good as the barometer, basically, that's where you get that kind of engagement and people are excited and people have agency, have ownership. But it really begins with that clarity and making sure that it's clearly articulated and embodied, not just articulated, but actually embodied throughout the organization. So how do you accomplish that?
Yeah, well, it's written everywhere, of course. We talk about it in every meeting. We hire all around the core values, right? So I'll hire first on like who they are as a human being, knowing that I can teach them, the skills of the trade, if you will.
Yes.
Compensation is based off executing on core values. So everything's based on that. And that's why it's so important to nail that. And we work with probably 30 or 40 different entrepreneurs and hundreds of brands. And I'll see like a small company, they'll launch their product because they want to solve, they think the product solves problems and then it works. And now all of a sudden they have another monster on their hands. They have to grow a company and they got to figure out how to manage people and do comp plans and hiring and all of the stuff that goes with it. And a lot of times they'll spend too much time actually up front trying to figure out like, what are our core values? Because at some level, your core values are really the output of who you are as a company.
And they evolve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you need to define that based on the type of people that work with you, the type of team that you've built, and then you need to hire to that and never stray. So yes. that would be our piece of advice.
Do you know anything about entrepreneurial operating systems?
Oh, EOS. Yeah. So we run EOS and Traction. Yeah. We use that whole process here.
Yeah. That's the heart of my coaching. Well, it's not the heart of it. It's the foundation. And then we grow from there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful process. EOS.
Yeah. I think any small company should probably use EOS or something like it. I recommend that one. I think as you get larger, maybe over 40, 50 people, then you got to maybe move on to something a little bit bigger. But that one that we still use today. We're on the way of kind of transitioning to something different. Just to, that system allows like multiple people in two boxes, and that's hard to do when you get large. You've got to specialize more by department. But absolutely, such a great. The foundation of it though is still true as far as your core values and your rocks and your goals and your vision. And just always making sure that you're.
And it's all about clarity.
That's right.
It's all about clarity. Everybody really understanding why they're here and how they contribute to the greater good.
That's right.
So I kind of call mine like I add a little more heart and soul to the EOS. That's a little bit of the difference. Some meditation, some activations, things of that nature. So one thing you talked about, and I find so true, and I find it even more so true since the pandemic. And everybody, you can't open up a business magazine or, be talking to business owners at a networking event or whatever, and not hear people complaining about the workforce. And I feel like that has just been exacerbated since the pandemic because people had a lot of time to go within. People had a lot of time to realize what was important to them and think about how they contribute to the world. And so they want that at work. And so many of them tried to break out. Not everybody's an entrepreneur now, though. Not everybody's an entrepreneur or meant to be. But everybody kind of got an entrepreneurial spirit in the pandemic. And I think a lot of that is because of that greater good. They really all of a sudden had this urge. I want to contribute. I want to help. I want to help people in all different kinds of ways. And many people came up with these side hustles and so on and so forth. And I think that business owners, entrepreneurs are missing out if they can't tap into that, because if you have somebody with an entrepreneurial spirit within your company and you're not leveraging that, you are really, really missing out. And I think that most people now really feel that way. And they don't want to go to work to make Jen rich or Dan rich or somebody else rich. They want to understand what good they're serving. And so how do you find that? I mean, listen, talking to somebody who has 100% retention rate, what do you attribute that to?
Well, first of all, I think you need to attribute to, like, everybody needs to be doing meaningful work that they can achieve. So it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or you are, an item setup person. whatever your role is, it has to tie back to something meaningful that you can achieve. And I think everybody is an entrepreneur at some level. Like me, I own the company, and my job that I'm accountable to everybody else, right? Like I work for them for this role of being the visionary from the standpoint of like the macro decision, where are we going to pivot the ship? But everybody in their role is tasked to be entrepreneurial from the standpoint of like, how can we do things better? How can we be more efficient, right? Is there a better way to do things? So we talk about that all the time. And when we have something called MVAs, right? The most valuable action that we all want to be taking. And when when work gets like too busy, right? Things get complicated because you grew too fast or something, we reset and say, well, we need to be spending 80% of our time on those MBAs. And if we're too busy because of email or a process that's out of date, we then update the process, or you figure out a different way to, from the hierarchy or executive assistants or whatever, to bring in support to make sure that everybody's empowered to execute the most valuable actions in their role. Because that's one of the issues too, is people just get busy. There's one outcome of growth, and that's complexity. And you have to take massive action to simplify things. Things don't get simpler as you grow. They get complex, right? So simplicity is a very beautiful thing. So that's one of the things that we do, is we make sure everybody understands their MVAs, their most valuable actions. And then at that role, we ask them to think very entrepreneurial about, like, on a blank slate, what would you do differently to make sure that you're freed up? Do you want to change the hierarchy? Should we change the job function? And quite frankly, like, the risk of the status quo is completely underestimated. It is very risky to do nothing. Things will get crazy if you do nothing, because the industry is changing. We as people are changing. Everything is changing. So your business should always be pivoting a little bit and changing how you do things and updating accordingly.
I love that. There's a quote: "You're either ripe and rotting or green and growing." And I like to say, there's only one thing that actually stays the same, and it's a McDonald's cheeseburger. You can probably leave it on your dining room table for many, many years and put it in the microwave for 30 seconds and it'll be the same. Kidding, yeah. Of course. But that's just it's so important. And that's also where, the engagement, the excitement, and knowing that we are growing. I personally believe that depression and anxiety comes from not living at your highest and best version of yourself. And so if you're not challenging your people and you're not encouraging them to use this entrepreneurial spirit and to grow as a human being while they are helping you, helping the company move forward, then we're not doing them any service. And that's where the complacency comes from. That's where, they just aren't, they're checked out.
Yeah. And I think, like, as a leader, that's our role. Like, how do I help even the most mundane role in the company, right? How do I help empower them to know that they have the opportunity to change or to update or to grow, right? So take the item setup person. Like, what if you work with them to automate that? Like, that's really exciting for them. It's like, oh my gosh, I changed the whole role. Now what can I spend my time on? Because, it all goes back to what we started with, of like understanding your purpose. And like, I believe with all my heart, mind, and soul that we were created to grow. We were created to grow. So with that in mind, if I believe that about every human that works with me, how do I empower them within their role to grow? Right?
Yeah.
Grow their responsibilities, grow how things are done. And that's one of the beautiful things. It's like that process never ends. There's always an opportunity to get more efficient, to get more effective, to focus on a more valuable task, if you will.
Wow. Amazing. I don't think I've met anybody who embodies the work that I do at the level that you do. So it's really beautiful to see in action. It really is like soulful prosperity come alive. And, my vision, my mission, my personal mission, my company's mission, which is really me, is to help over 1 million people level up to their highest and best version of themselves and awaken. And I decided that because I was very torn for so many years. I had a very strong spiritual life, and then I had my business persona, and they were very separate. And then I went through a lot in the last few years. My real estate business basically crumbled, and the beautiful thing that came out of it was me coming into my wholeness and merging this, hence the Soulful Prosperity. And I decided that at first I was kind of like very spiritual, and then I was like all business, and then I was able to bring it together. And being in that wholeness is a beautiful place to be. But I know for a fact that business leaders, entrepreneurs we're the connectors, right? So it's like, if I help one person, awaken and turn this business into something that's nourishing their soul, nourishing all the lives and the souls around them, that's just going to keep spreading. So how do you encourage that with businesses that you work with?
Yeah, no, I think it's key. I mean, it goes back to like, what's my responsibility? So I tell them all the time, like, I own the company, but it's our company, because I don't exist. This place doesn't exist without the team. So it's a lot of time and a lot of thought, just thinking about like, what were they created to enjoy doing, right? So I do not believe that there's like a work Dan and a personal Dan. Like, I'm just me, and I need to show up me as a dad, me as a husband, right? My wife married me. She didn't marry business Dan. My employees and team members, like, they want to work with Dan, not business Dan. I'm not some human being like for 8 hours a day and another one for a different, for the rest of the time. So I think that's step one, is trying to figure out like, who are you created to be? What value can you bring to the table? What are you uniquely gifted at, right? What are you uniquely gifted at? And everybody has something that they can bring to the party, without a doubt. And the people that don't know that, like, that's our job as leaders, to unlock that and to show that and let them live out of that. And for me, it's like, it's not a burden, because I'm thankful for it, but there's a weight on my shoulders, recognizing that there's 25 people that will spend a majority of their adult life working, in my company, trying to execute what the vision is. And I'm like, how do I steward that massive responsibility? Well, I want to make sure that they are growing in their role, that they're engaged, that I give them meaningful work to do. Coming out of the corporate world, there's kind of the structure that a lot of large companies follow, called the competency model. And that works high level like this, where you identify kind of future leaders, and then you have them do all the roles within the company. So someday when they're in charge, they've done that role and they can help manage and lead. And I think that that's the wrong way to go about it, right? So that's what 3M was like, and most big companies are like. And I'm like, I don't want to be an analyst. I'd be a terrible analyst. I would hate my job as an analyst, and I'm blocking somebody that would like doing that. So one of the things that we do here, I call it the passion model, where it's like, we find people that are really passionate about analytics, and then put them in the role with meaningful work they can achieve. I keep saying that. What I mean is, if somebody's on our team and they love analytics, I'm going to give them meaningful things to analyze that will actually move the company forward. So when the company hits their goal, the analyst that maybe on the hierarchy is way down here knows in their heart, mind, and soul, they're doing a great job, help the company hit the goal. And if you can achieve that at all levels, right? We got people in the right seats doing the roles that they love to do, and then take the busy work off. Find ways to get the busy work off their plate and really let them focus on the things they love doing. And then the whole company starts to succeed. And that's where you start to realize momentum, which is such a powerful force.
I love that. And again, it boils back to the clarity, because what happens too is we find somebody talented, we put them in a role. Typically, we don't even make sure the role is actually aligned with what their actual talents are. We just recognize talent. And then they go into that role and they're succeeding, and then we start throwing more on them. But we never actually update them clearly on, here's your role, this is what it entails, and what do you think about it? And exactly like you said earlier, how would you approach it, and blah, 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 and just making sure that it matches. We just start throwing it all together. And then the next thing you know, people are in complacency, they're resentful, they're burnt out, they're tired, they're overwhelmed. And I see a lot of that. So your strategies are amazing. So I want to shift gears. Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I just think one piece of advice too for leaders is remember that you're in the front of the lines. You're not a general sending them out to war, sitting back in the Pentagon. Like, you are George Washington out in front. The bullets are flying above your head as well. And I say that to say, like, stuff shouldn't flow downhill. So like for us, if we have a client that's being disrespectful, if we have a client that isn't living out our own core values, like, these core values aren't just for us, it's to work with us. You will be honest and ethical if you want to work with us. You will be a solution provider, not if you want to work here, also to work with us. And there's been plenty of clients I call and I'll say, this isn't going to work out this way. This isn't going to work out. Like, here's what we're all about. If you want to work with us, you need to be all about this as well. And I will tell you, 9 out of the 10 times I've had that conversation, behavior has changed immediately. And those people have been nothing but wonderful to work with since. So I think that's also important to recognize. Like, if you're going to call yourself a CEO or a president or a leader, then lead your people and like protect your people. Yes.
Beautiful. All right. So I just want to change.
I had to get that in there.
So glad that you did. Just want to change gears to talk about the sex trafficking. How is that something that you got involved with, and how do you do that? How are you involved with saving girls from sex trafficking?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it really started me, not having a father growing up, and then trying to figure out, like, how can I help as many people as possible? Our business, we manage like 110 brands or something like that at Target. A majority of them are in the toy business. So our business as a whole, like, a majority of it is for kids. So it really aligns for like what we do all day, right? As far as managing toy industry type products. My heart, as far as like helping kids, really came to a line of like, let's focus when we partner with nonprofits to make an impact. Let's focus on children. So everything we do, like, we've fed 1 million kids. The domestic abuse was all for children. Everything we do is for kids. So how we do it is every year we find a nonprofit that I think is doing a great job. Right, stewarding the donations. They're actually going to the children. Nothing nefarious going on that we can find. So we'll partner with a different nonprofit every year, and I'll communicate, out to the team, like, hey, here's 3 or 4 I think that are great, and we'll decide as a company, like, who are we going to try to support each year. And we found what I thought was one of the best nonprofits in that space. It's called Marisi. And called the owner up and said, hey, I love what you guys are doing. Here's what we're all about. How much money would it take to save 100 girls? And he shared that number. And I said, let's do 200 then. And we spent a whole year working to provide enough revenue that we could give our profits away to help that nonprofit save 200 girls.
That's amazing. We'll make sure that we get that information on that company. That's a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. So what's next for you, Dan?
What's next for us is just to keep growing. At some level, I think we were created to grow. I think businesses, like, you can put your car in neutral and it won't go anywhere. You put your business in neutral, it goes backwards. So for us, I think we were created to grow. So we're going to keep growing with the idea that we're going to try to help as many kids as possible. We've got a long-term goal where I want to try to affect the lives of at least 1 billion kids. So we'll keep going until we get there, Lord willing.
Fantastic. So if there was one message that you could get out to the world, what would it be?
Well, I think one, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, is to remember the Steve Jobs quote. And that is, like, everything that you see all around you was created by somebody no different, no smarter than you are. Right. So I think it's really important to believe that you really can execute the things that you want to do. You might need some help. It's like I tell my 5-year-old, he's like, I can't do it. I'm like, oh, you can do anything. You just might need some help along the way.
Yes. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, so I know all about that. Although she just thinks she can do everything.
Yeah, totally.
She's a little queen. Fantastic. So is there anything else that you want to communicate to the audience?
Well, one of my superpowers is I try to do everything I can to be accessible. So if you have any questions on life or business or anything that we've talked about, like email me. I promise you I will get back to you. It might take a couple days, but I promise I'll write you back. You can email me anytime at grow@thegenesiscompany.com. That's grow@thegenesiscompany.com. And happy to help you however I can, because we are here to serve, created to serve. So let's do it.
Wow. Awesome. You are amazing. I'm so glad that we did this and we got to know each other better. And I'm sure that we'll do more in the future. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. All these links will be available for whether you're listening or watching the podcast below, more than likely. And thank you for tuning into Soulful Prosperity.